Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Chris and you're watching 4K Motoring. So as you may be able to see behind me here, I have a vehicle I haven't really talked about on the channel much. It's my 2004 Honda CRF250x that will probably be leaving my stable here pretty soon. So I wanted to go ahead and make a quick video just kind of telling you guys a little bit about it, what I like about it, what I don't like about it. I'm sure there's other videos out there that you guys have seen about these things, if you guys are familiar with the older Honda four-stroke bikes. So I'll make this kind of brief and let you guys see it before I get rid of it. Obviously you guys like the Corvette videos a little bit more. I like spending more time in the Corvette. Honestly, I've taken this bike out about 3 times in the last year. It really doesn't justify having it in my garage here taking up space. So we're going to get it onto a different home where it might be actually used and get some updates for the Corvette coming up. So without further ado, let me kind of tell you a little bit about this bike. So this is my 2004 Honda CRF250x, and much like the CRF250R that most of you have seen around, the little cheaper supercross variant, motocross variant of the bike, the X version gets a couple tweaks to it to make it a little bit better for woods riding or kind of that enduro riding that is not present in the normal variant. So without a doubt, you guys can see we've got a headlight, we've also got a rear tail light. It's not a brake light, so this is not a street legal bike. It's just a tail light to be seen in the woods or in darker conditions. The suspension tuning is just a little bit different in the X versus the R model. So it's not really made to handle the big jumps. It's not stiff enough to do that. It's a little bit softer. It absorbs those little roots and ruts, maintains traction a little bit better than would the motocross bikes. When you move on to the engine, very similar engine here to the 250R. It is still the Honda Unicam design, which it has some pros as far as weight. Really is its big plus, but it is kind of a maintenance nightmare. So take that for what you will. If you're looking for a bike that you can just hang around and do minimal maintenance on, it'll run forever. The Unicam's not really what you'd probably be looking for here. So good for you, Honda, for making a race bike, but it does require a little bit more maintenance than most of the other brands. On top of that, we have an electric starter on this bike, which is awesome. And unlike a lot of the KTMs out there, it has both electric start and a Kickstarter. So battery dies, not a problem. If you want the convenience of the button, you have it there. Can't go wrong that way. Also have a kickstand on the bike, as you guys can see, which is not found on the motocross bikes. Obviously, with hitting big jumps, you don't really want a kickstand falling down on you. So it's got a decent spring. It really doesn't fall down on its own through normal riding. Great for the woods, being able to just stop and set it down wherever you want to without having to find a tree to lean it up against or get a stand. And it also has this big 18-inch, I guess I should say small wheel, 18-inch wheel as opposed to the 19-inch on the Supercross bike. Gets you a little bit more rubber, a little bit more sidewall. You can air down more. Just really all around better for traction, going off-road, going over roots, going in soft stuff. It's preferred by most riders here. As far as the engine tuning goes, carburetor's a little bit different, and some of the flywheel weighting is a little bit different on the engine to give it a little bit smoother and slower power delivery. So it's not quite as snappy as the R would be, but it also doesn't, you know, bog down when it hits a small obstacle. It has a little bit better roll-through power. So overall, that is what the X variant is on this bike, as opposed to the R. Now I'll tell you a little bit about this particular one, why I got it, what I got it for, what I'm hopefully selling it for, and why I've kind of gone this way as, you know, as far as my progression in the dirt bike ownership. So I picked up this bike for about 1,800 bucks right at the beginning of the big COVID rush. Not really because of COVID I picked it up. Every year or so I end up buying a new one, end up selling it because I never ride it, but I always want another one, so this seems to keep going in cycles. My last dirt bike I had was a 2012 KTM 350 SXF, the Supercross version, and the guy before me had done a lot of work to it to make it, you know, a woods capable bike. but still didn't have the radiator fans. The suspension tuning wasn't set up for wood stuff. So it just would hop over roots. It wouldn't find traction. It really wasn't optimal for what I wanted to use it for. Before that, I had a 2004 Honda CRF250R, the Supercross version of this bike. And that bike, ultimately the thing I loved about it was, I think it was about 204 pounds wet, and that was amazing. It was super nimble to go off-road. The suspension, the Showa suspension, actually has a good range of adjustment that it's not too terrible from the factory. Even the Supercross motocross suspension is not unrideable off-road. You can set it pretty soft. Doesn't have quite the range of adjustability as the X version does as far as tuning, but it is very good for off-roading. Overall, I like that bike a lot. Ended up getting that stolen, so that was its own issue. But I was a big fan of that bike, which is what led me to this bike, the X version, which kind of solved some of those issues I had with the both the KTM and the Honda I had before, with just some of the off-road ability, the factory built, you know, enduro setup, which is what I wanted. I'll be honest, I'm still not in love with it with this bike. I like it a lot. It's still not perfect for me. It is about 60 pounds, I think, heavier. I'll post up the numbers here. I believe it's about 60 pounds heavier than the R version was for this year. Both the battery, the electric start, some of the other pieces that are on it do add a little bit of weight. The owner before me went ahead and put on a lithium battery on this bike, a small lithium battery. So, as you guys know, there are numerous tests about those. They don't really have the amp hours that a normal lead acid or AGM battery would have, but they do have the power. They have way less weight, which is their big thing, and they're not really affected by vibrations. So with that, it does have that battery. The lack of amp hours is not a big deal. It has a Kickstarter if you run through it. Not the end of the world. So, but that does reduce a little bit of weight. So this bike is probably about 50 pounds, give or take, more than the R version would be for the same year model. Obviously not including the protection on it when you put the bar ends on it, the handguards, the metal skid plates, although they don't weigh much, all the plastic body guards and that sort of thing. So I picked this bike up, like I said, for about $1,800, which at the beginning of COVID, really not too bad. The guy before me had just got the new top end on the motor done, had less than 10 hours on it, and you can see it's definitely a fresher color than the bottom of the motor. The front suspension had been rebuilt just recently, new fluid, new seals, and the new battery put on. So of all the things it needed, those were some of the main things I was concerned about. So $1,800, brought that home. The handlebars were put on crooked. The mounts on them are reversible, and one was backwards. The handlebars were crooked. The bodywork that was on it was broken, and it wasn't really clean. The guy that had it before me didn't know a lot about it, so was able to get it for that price. Brought it home, straightened the handlebars out a little bit, went through it, made sure it was all actually in good condition, which it was. Underneath, went ahead and put the handguards on, put new plastics, new decals on it, and went ahead and threw some new tires on it. And overall, this has been a great bike, really, for what it is, for that price. I'll tell you, I am now, see, it's been about a year that I've had it. Have a couple offers already, north of $3,000 for the bike. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of it and put that money into the Corvette, as it'll be actually used a little bit more. Of the things I don't like about this bike, the main thing is these early four-stroke bikes. It's not really unique to Honda alone, but a lot of the early four-stroke bikes, early 2000 bikes, they don't like to start cold. And really, in my experience, all of them that are carbureted have an issue with this to some degree. So my KTM was fuel injected. I love that thing. Would ultimately like eventually to get a enduro version of that 350, which may be the route I go. Probably the street legal variant as well, so it'll actually be used from time to time. Here in Raleigh, if you guys are familiar with the area, there's lots of places to ride within about an hour or so of the city, but you have to travel quite a bit to get there. So it just frankly doesn't happen for me. I don't have the time to load it up, take it, ride it, take it back, clean it. It's a whole day event just to take this thing out. So that's why I've kind of gotten into mountain biking as a replacement, because it's much more local, much more time friendly, not any less expensive, strangely, but that's what I've been doing. So with that, it's just a short video to show you one of the motorized vehicles in the fleet here before it leaves. If you guys have any questions, if any of you guys have had one of these before or anything similar, please leave a comment. Let me know what you've had. Let me know what you've liked, disliked about it. If any of you guys had the KTM Enduro bikes, let me know any issues you've had with them. Like I said, I had the SX350, the first year model, but haven't ridden anything since. So I'd really like to see how they are, see if I get one of those eventually. Any of you guys ride the street legal dual sport bikes? Is the weight really an issue for you guys? That's my one big concern for getting the street legal versions, is they're detuned a little bit on the engine, which can be fixed, but they are much heavier bikes. So that is kind of the enemy, as I've found when you're going some of the harder off-road stuff. Appreciate you guys watching. Leave a comment and please subscribe if you enjoy this sort of content. And hopefully we'll have some more videos for you very soon. So as always, thanks for watching, and you're on 4K Motoring.